The Redneck Tech Podcast is brought to you by Mike'sArchery.com. They're a one-stop shop for virtually everything archery, bow hunting, and for your next outdoor adventure. Mike's Archery has been at the top of the archery game for over 50 years, and they want to give listeners of the Redneck Tech Podcast 10% off their entire online store using code REDNECK10, all one word. Just put the code in before you check out, and your boys will hook you up. The guys at Mike's have always been good to us, and now they can be good to you too. Visit Mike'sArchery.com and get your gear now.
Are you right here? Yeah. Do you want it? There.
Welcome back to the Redneck Tech Podcast. This is episode 190. This is your closet host, Clay, here with Joe, and you'll have to excuse some technical difficulties that Joe or I have because we've never done a podcast without Ryer or Caleb, and they normally run the podcast, and we just talk and give our insight. So there may be some things that go wrong. Hopefully there aren't, but if there are, then we take full responsibility for it.
And we also don't care that much.
No, we really don't. We really don't. As long as it sounds good, we really don't care. But on this episode, Joe and I are going to talk about the differences between filming bow hunts and rifle hunts, the goods of both of them, the bads of both of them, what makes both of them difficult in their own right. And I think a lot of people just think we go out and film, and there's a lot of pre-production on both ends. Before, during, and after on the fly. And Joe and I have both, actually I haven't done a bow hunt all year. I mean, I did a crossbow hunt, but that's basically a rifle.
Well,
And that's a different podcast.
we can't get in the crossbow debate today.
But this is my first season filming that I didn't do a single bow hunt. And obviously we're doing a lot of stuff for Bergara CVA. And I forgot how intimate bow hunts were, how much different they were, and things like that, both on the Western and the whitetail side of things. And that's kind of what we were going to cover today, because Joe and I both did a whitetail hunt together.
A couple weeks ago.
Yeah, with rifles in Texas. I mean, it is Texas, so that's its own animal. But we did a lot of Bergara stuff out west. Did one with Ryer. Did two with Ryer. You did two with Ryer. So, we were just going to go through, got a couple talking points we wanted to touch on. We wanted to go through the gear, and kind of how we set our cameras up for that type of filming. The way you film the two different types, a rifle hunt versus a bow hunt, to do it correctly. And then the ease or difficulty of storytelling, because there are some different storytelling aspects that you kind of have to lean on to make one equal to or better than the other. So,
correct.
I guess just to jump right into the gear, normally speaking, well, I guess actually always, I've never been on a whitetail hunt, bow or gun, that was two camera. I take that back. That was two producers.
Yeah,
and
I don't think so.
I've run two cameras whitetail hunting for a while, my FX6 and my mirrorless. But I've never done a whitetail hunt that was two cameras, two camera operators, and a hunter.
The only time I've ever seen that, I feel like I saw a meat eater do that, recently, like that whitetail series of Mark Kenyon. I think they had a guy in another tree, and then they also had someone in the tree with the hunter.
Really?
I'm pretty sure, unless I'm mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that happened.
Like, obviously,
Which it's very rare.
obviously, like when we were doing Lee and Tiff, if Lee and Tiff were both hunting, they each had their own producer with them.
Yeah.
But we've never done two cameras or two producers with one hunter on a whitetail hunt.
No.
But what makes that different on, like, whether it's bow or rifle, we've never had two, but what makes that different on a Western hunt, like if you're doing a whitetail hunt, a mule deer hunt or a coos deer hunt or an elk hunt with a bow, you can very easily do that with one person. We've done it with one person
Yeah.
for a long time. Is it always better with two? Absolutely.
Well, I filmed Dudley all September.
Yeah,
That was all archery.
we did Lee and Tiff with one person.
Yeah. It's definitely more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, we've done stuff with Black Rifle with one person. The Tecumani trip I went on this year was one person.
That was gun.
It was bow gun.
Yeah, it was a bow gun. But no offense, you crossbow lovers.
But with that being said, when you're using a bow, I mean, even if you're shooting an elk or a mule deer at 100 yards, with that 24 to 240 at 100 yards, you're filling the frame with an elk or a mule deer, or as tight as you want to be in order to still be able to be on that animal when it gets shot and run off.
Yeah.
So you don't need, like with the 24 to 240, you got 24 millimeters to film all your walking, your scenics, your tights, all that. You got 240 to film animals. You can either handheld hold it. I use a monopod a lot, use a tripod, whatever. But doing it with a rifle, Western hunting is a completely different animal, because nowadays rifle hunting isn't just shooting them at 200 or 300 yards.
No.
So
It's gotten way more difficult.
yeah,
With all the long range stuff.
well, the shooting the gun hasn't gotten difficult. It's gotten a lot easier.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you are.
1,000 yards, but filming them has become a complete nightmare, because like 70 to 200 doesn't do it anymore.
No, not even close.
Like 1 to 400 is just enough for elk,
Just enough.
because elk are so big they fill the frame.
Yeah.
So with that being said, you can't, like let's just say a rifle elk hunt, for example, you're not filming wide scenics, someone walking, things like that, talking
Yeah.
with a 100 to 400. Mainly because like you could hold a 100 to 400 at 100 millimeters and get all those things, but when you're filming an elk at 400 millimeters, you gotta be on a tripod.
Yeah. No doubt.
So with that being said, in order to film someone walking and talking and doing all those things, when you're done filming the elk, you have to break down the tripod, put it on your back, and then follow that person with a 100 or 400.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it's a little different than doing it with a bow hunt, because it's almost, I don't want to say impossible. It's very, 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 very hard to film a Western rifle hunt with one person.
Yeah. It's
Unless you're doing a type of hunt where you're sitting up on a glassing knob and you're not moving all day, and if something comes by, you shoot it. Then you have time to lay your gear out, get it where you need it to where you can just grab and go and you're not moving.
yeah, which I mean that's gonna be so rare. I mean, in most cases, I mean, at least the places that we've been hunting, that's probably not gonna be the case.
Well, like boot leather, the whole premise of boot leather is all the miles put in to get an animal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was one thing we told Bergara, like, hey, we have this idea for an episodic series. This is what it's going to entail. This is, what it's going to be about. This is the style we're thinking, but it's going to require 2 shooters.
Right.
And a lot of times, as soon as you tell a company it's going to require 2 shooters, it turns them off, because they're thinking double travel costs, double food costs, double day rate. So, but to do it right with a rifle out west, that's really what you have to do. Like when Ryer and I did the boot leather with Chris, and I'm going to assume it's the same way when you did your episode with Ryer and Chris, that there's a camera with a 24 to 105 or a 24 to 240. I like the 24 to 105 just because it looks a little cleaner, but 24 to 105, handheld, no sticks, no video head, no tripod, just a camera and a 24 to 105 running audio on the hunter and the guide. Then the person filming animals, or kill cam, we usually call them content cam and kill cam. Content cam is the person running audio and all that kind of stuff. The person on kill cam, and I think we ran the 24 to 105.
Yeah.
Because you guys had, we ran the 1 to 400. Because on that same hunt was the time that you and Caleb went
To Arizona.
Yeah. Hunt.
Yeah.
And our thought was the elk hunt, you're going to move around a lot more. So having the 1 to 400, which is lighter, is going to be easier.
Yeah, for sure.
2, 400 millimeters on an elk looks a lot closer than
a Coos deer.
than on a Coos deer. So
Yeah.
having the extra 200 millimeters on a Coos deer and the 600 makes it a lot easier.
Dude, for those Coos deer, I think you need like a 800.
Well, like Ryer tried to do some mathematical equation he found online to equate the millimeters of a lens to the power of a spotting scope.
Oh yeah.
So like if someone had because when he would go to Utah on those mule deer hunts, people would be like, oh, there's a deer. And it would be filling the frame on their iPhone, on their phone scope, and then he'd film it and it'd be like the size of a rice kernel
Yeah.
on the screen. And they're like, you can't punch in anymore. And Ryer had like 150 to 600 that Tamron before we got the Sonys, the 100 to 400 and the 2 to 600. And so Ryer, being Ryer on the plane home, I think he found out that in order to equate to like a 60 power spotting scope, you would almost need like a 6,000 millimeter lens or an 8,000 millimeter.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and we're shooting everything in 4K. And even in 4K, a lot of the problem you can't punch in all the way to 100% because there's so much detail in the aspens and the leaves and the timber and the grass and the shrubs that when you crop into 100% on 4K, there's so much detail it actually almost kills the image because the processors in the camera can't handle that much detail in such a confined space.
Yeah. Well, dude, getting back to like spotting scopes, Chris had he had a Swaro spotting scope.
The BTX?
Dude. Well, he didn't have the BCX on. He had his phone hooked to his spotting scope with I think the Olin.
Yeah,
I think adapter. Yeah. And dude, that spotter's crisp. Like just cell phone footage. Like as much as like I don't want to use cell phone footage, like that footage like on Coos deer was very usable.
Well, he said that's why what helped him spend the money to get that
Yeah.
was like a lot of the times when Chris is doing, like Chris will just wake up one morning and be like, I'm going to go scout for elk today.
Yeah.
Well, if he goes and scouts elk in the summer, obviously we can't just wake up and be at his beck and call every day. So if he gets elk footage that we can use in an episode, like that scouting episode that you and I did, we used a lot of his footage. Well, dude, it looks beautiful.
Oh,
that was
yeah.
part of the reason why he got that. I think it's the 90,
Yeah.
the BTX, and then the 115 on the end.
Like, dude, it is so clear.
Right.
Like it's crazy how clear it
That's
is.
what he said. He's like, I'm obviously using it for guiding, but also if it's going to make the episodes look better to the point that we can use this as not so much a creative crutch, but another aspect to where we don't have to go out and get 2 weeks worth of elk footage all the time. It might help prolong the existence of the project. And
Yeah.
like, okay.
Because I thought it looked good. And
Yeah.
if you take that new iPhone 15 and put it in log with the Apple ProRes, dude, with a spotting scope,
Right.
it'd be real tough to tell the difference. Like it was that clear.
Well, and other than having a 6,000 millimeter lens, like you'd need one of those sport lenses that they use in like baseball or football.
Right.
And you're not carrying that around. That's an $80,000 lens.
Well, I think that's if Caleb wants to do it right. I think that's what he should buy.
Dude, could you imagine just the weight of the tripod and the head for that?
Dude, I already can't stand the 600 these days.
Well, the other issue with the 600 is you got to run rails
Yeah.
because it's so long.
Yeah.
So your very light magnesium alloy bodied FX6 turns into which I mean, honestly, and you did this in BC not by choice, but because you had to. You ran your mirrorless.
Yeah.
And if you're not filming, talking, or anything, even if you are double shooting, you get a snap. You just run a shotgun mic and you can sync it for like double shooting, talking. But having that 2 to 600 and just having a mirrorless on the back is a hell of a lot better than running the FX6.
Yeah, it is better. I guess the only downfall of that, which this is important to talk about too, the only downfall of that is like you don't get your auto ND and your ND that's built in like the FX6.
Right, but I mean also too, it's 600 millimeters. I don't mind having it at f11 to make sure everything's in focus.
Yeah, that's
versus 6.3.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's not the end of the world.
No,
But
in low light, it is nice to.
It is
16,000 ISO.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But in terms of like just carrying it, like that. Excuse me. That lens with just the mirrorless
Was way
way more manageable.
Yeah,
than,
like you still need to use the same tripod and head, but it's so much easier. Like, just throw it over your shoulder and go.
Yeah, it was way easier.
Yeah.
I mean, I still fell 15 times.
Well, yeah, but that's because it's BC.
Yeah, right. But it definitely was easier. It wasn't like my preferred. Like, I'd much rather probably have my FX6.
Right.
But it does work, and it definitely is easier to carry.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but I guess when you are like Western rifle hunt and you're double shooting it, the person with the FX6 and the 2 to 600, they're not only filming animals.
Yeah.
They're just getting different versions of what the content camera is getting with their lens. So, like, if we had a behind the scenes of that hunt that Ryer and I did with Chris for boot leather, there'd be a lot of shots of him and I getting the same scenic.
Yeah.
Just getting it super tight on something on the horizon, and I'm getting it super wide.
Yeah.
Or like he's still getting shots of leaves and wind blowing the trees. And one thing I love to get with those lenses is tight, because you can set up and you can follow people a lot easier because you have to be on the tripod, is set up super tight on their feet and film them like walking across the terrain with their feet. You're still getting all those scenic shots, all those tights, those product shots, eyes, hands, whatever. You're just getting it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
In editing, which we'll get to later, obviously gives you more latitude. You're not just going, oh, I'm going to take the easy way out and be kill cam.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll much rather film someone talking all day than carry around that.
Oh, yeah, dude. That, like, God, where did I carry it last? Oh, yeah, I carried it with Ryer on Chris's. And, like, day 5, I was like,
You just kill something.
I'm like, dude, we got to rack this thing out.
Yeah. Which usually with rifle hunts with Chris, it doesn't take day 5.
Yeah, right.
Well, I guess technically it was day 6 for you guys, but you're on your second animal in 6 days.
Yeah,
Killed it
true.
the first day.
True.
Which we're going to get to here in a second when we talk about filming style.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just the gear required. Because like when we're whitetail hunting, whether you're whitetail hunting with a bow or a rifle, like when we just did that trip at Tecumani, I had the 600 because you went ahead and texted me, hey, dog, I'm going to steal that 1 to 400 for this trip. And I was like, all right. So I went ahead and set up with rails and everything.
Yeah.
But in a whitetail situation, if you go out with your 2 to 600 and you think you're getting everything, especially like in a box blind, you have to go back and recreate everything.
Well, yeah, everything. And,
And in that situation, like Texas, where there's 74 animals to look and talk about and exotics and this and that, and there's 360, because like, I mean, you go to Texas, if you're not hunting over corn, you're lying about not hunting over corn.
Right.
So they're corning 360 around the blind, so those deer can come out anywhere.
Yeah.
So what Joe and I did, and
Yeah, this is important.
a lot of people know that for a while I've run my mirrorless on a second angle in a tree for like live cutaways. I do the same thing in a box blind. I just take my small little glassing tripod and I keep the feet as low as I can, or you can even do this with a small light stand, like we're using for the cameras or whatever, but a small light stand or a glassing tripod that's a small footprint with a neck that extends. So then you can extend that neck and your feet aren't super wide out, taking a lot of room. 16 to 35, I have the mics that hot shoe. They run dual channels. I put it on the hot shoe on my mirrorless, and I told David, anytime you want to talk, just let me know. I just hit record. You look at this camera. This camera right here, all it's doing is filming animals. Everything else is on this camera right here.
Yeah.
And like when he's sitting there, he's very long-winded. He had a 13-minute opening interview one afternoon, and dude, I went through and he was talking to that camera, and I just went through and got all my scenics and all that kind of stuff before the deer started coming out. And by the time he got done, like I was chilling until deer started coming out.
Yeah.
And it just makes it a lot easier. Like you can recreate. It's really hard unless someone's been doing it for a long time to recreate seeing an animal for the first time really well.
It's never
It's never the
it's never as good as like when you get it real time.
right.
You know, and it's like, I know it's part of the gig, but like,
If you don't have to, why?
yeah, and nobody likes filming that. Like,
No.
the whole thing's kind of weird,
Yeah.
you know?
It's like, hey man, congratulations on your first 200-inch buck. Let's go back and fake a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, right.
Even though it happened, like we're not faking. It's like we're not swimming across the river that doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Like we're doing a bunch of things that already happened,
right.
but it's like it just kills the whole vibe. It's like you can't go celebrate. You can't go, look at the animal, take pictures, whatever. Because all right, we got 30 minutes of cutaways we have to do now.
Right.
Or like Lee killed that big 9-point in Illinois, And after 2 years, it was the first whitetail I had ever filmed Lee kill after being in a tree for like 60 days with him.
Yeah.
And he's grunting at the deer and all this kind of stuff and coming in and he killed it, get his reaction. I told him the same thing. I was like, dude, as soon as if you end up killing something, you look right at this camera and react.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. And I got all of it live because if we're able to get a kill shot in high speed, like we're going to get it in high speed because you can always speed it up if you don't want it in high speed.
Yeah.
You can't slow it down if you get it in regular time. Well, by the time the animal falls, you stop recording, you turn your camera from high speed to regular speed, your shots can be blown out. So then you have to re-expose, find your subject, all that kind of stuff. Dude, it could be 15, 20 seconds and dude's trying to hold in his reaction or just tell him, hey, look at this camera and you're good, which is what's great about having the 2 cameras on rifle hunts. Is someone's always on the hunter or the guy getting that reaction and the other person is only worried about animals.
Yeah. Well, that's something that brings up another topic too. Like, so I guess that's more of a mirrorless and, like cinema camera thing too. So like a mirrorless, you can shoot it like take an FX3, you can shoot that on 120 frames in 4K and still have audio. And that's just to clarify for people like what we're talking about for doing this setup is because on the FX6 and S&Q mode at 4K 120, there is no audio. So you're just getting the whole thing's high speed. But if you shoot on a mirrorless and you shoot in 120, you can also get audio with that. But with our setups that we're running, we don't get audio. So
that's FS7 was like that.
Yeah.
FS5. I don't know if like the Canons do that because
I don't know.
No one in the outdoor space really uses.
And it's only when you go to S&Q mode. So like when I had my FX3, I never shot in S&Q.
Right.
It was always just 4K 120.
Shot like a custom mode at 120.
Yeah, and I always had audio. Now like the longer I got into this, it was like I don't really need the audio with it. And you can wear out slow motion. Right. But that's what we're talking about when we're saying why we have 2 angles set up and why we can't get everything real time.
Right.
Right.
But like the gist of it is you can do any bow hunt with one person really well.
Yeah.
I mean, it is very, 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 very hard to do a rifle hunt really well with one camera.
Yeah.
I take that back. It's doable because we've done it all the time.
Yeah.
But doing a rifle hunt out west with 2 people blows one person out of the water.
Yeah, it's
you're way more
not comparable.
No. Well, to segue into that, you look at the length of the hunt. Like, you go bow hunt elk for 5 days. Somewhere within 5 days, if you're doing your job, you should have everything you need to tell that story about that 5 days.
Yeah.
Because unless you're going on one of those $30,000 or $40,000 elk hunts,
yeah,
I mean, you're probably not going to kill in the first or second day. And if you are going to kill in the first or second day, the animal's probably big enough that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That you killed on the second day. It's not like you're showing a 300-inch bull on the first day. Like you're shooting grandpa.
Right.
Where if you look at the hunt that Ryer and I did with Chris and Brian for boot leather, we showed up at camp at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, got everything ready, game plan for the next day. We roll out 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, see our first elk at 7:15, 7:30. By 8:30, we're done with cutaways because we killed an elk on the first day.
Right.
And like, luckily we had service on the mountain. We're calling Bergara like, hey, this is what just happened. What creative ideas would you guys like us to implement to cover the next like 3 scenes we have?
Yeah, right. You probably had what, like realistic, like 3 to 4 minutes of finished video at that point?
Well, it was Ryer's, because I edited this. I vividly remember Ryer was kill cam, and I think it was Ryer's like 13th or 14th clip.
Yeah.
That was the kill shot. The clip before that.
No, we lost our middle angle. We're working through this, guys. It's harder than it looks. We don't know. We've taken the time. Let me see. Nope.
About out.
Nope. Did it come out over here? No, we have lost the middle angle.
This is unbelievable.
We have Ryer making a guest appearance.
He's probably judging our production skills.
Have you been just listening?
Nothing? Hey, Ryder, if I try to unplug this cord, does that mess
I
it
got
up?
nothing. No. So Ryer's going to hum elevator music in the interim.
Can you see it now?
Check. No.
No.
Nope.
What?
It's now plugged over here.
It's going to be the one in the middle. I mean, I guess we don't really need the wide angle. We can just switch between you and I.
Yeah. So we'll have to do fry that other connection right there.
I hate technology. Did we get it back?
No, got nothing.
Well, we'll just switch back and forth between you and I.
Okay.
But I think it was like Ryer's 13th or 14th clip on that camera that was the kill shot.
Yeah.
And there were only 3 or 4 clips before that had an elk on it.
Yeah.
And obviously I had all of the talking of seeing the elk and getting on the elk. And luckily it actually took Brian, our hunter, 4 or 5 minutes to find the elk and get on it.
Yeah.
To where I had all of that live. So we were able to fill and build a lot of suspense with that, like Chris saying, here's the elk, look for this landmark, go this far. And I mean, during the actual hunt, it took 4 or 5 minutes for him to find it.
Yeah.
So luckily we had that, but I mean, there's not a lot. I mean, unless you're being very, very, very picky about the animal that your hunter's killing, or you're going on like a once in a lifetime sheep hunt or moose hunt, or you're going on a coos deer hunt where they're just legitimately hard to find and kill.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could roll up in a rifle hunt, and if you see the animal you want, you can kill it.
Yeah. Yeah. Way different than archery. That's why, I think filming an archery hunt is so much, it's a lot harder in my opinion. Like, the only thing, you get more content, I think, but like in terms of
Because
like,
things don't happen as fast.
yeah, they don't happen, and you're going to go, more than likely, you're going to go on stocks that don't pan out. You're going to call in bulls that don't pan out, or,
You're gonna see it. You're gonna see a whitetail, and it's not gonna come in range.
yeah, right. So you have more content where, like, with the rifle, sometimes, sometimes you see one and he's, nowadays, Chris shot that mule deer 550 yards.
Yeah.
And it's like, had we had been archery hunting, we have to make the stock. You might have to wait for the wind, where it's not like you're not playing the wind with a rifle, but it's not near as critical.
You spook way more animals with a bow.
Way more.
Yeah.
Yeah, way more. So, it's a done deal. But
Like that bull that Brian killed with Ryer and I. I mean, from where we shot it from, getting to that bull, if we had to sneak up on those 4 bulls bow hunting, no chance we would have killed him.
yeah.
I think as a group of 4 of us, we fell no more than 3 or 4 times going over deadfall
Yeah.
with empty packs. This was getting to that,
right.
let alone trying to get 4 people there or 3 people there.
It looked like Blowdown City. And
It sucked.
yeah.
It sucked. And I remember editing my first rifle hunt after I had edited some bow hunts where I actually did cutaways correctly. Like, building the suspense with a rifle is so much harder than doing it with a bow. Like,
Yeah.
seeing the animal, like with a bow, you have to see the animal. It has to come in range, or you have to call to it, or, it has to step into this hole where your arrow trajectory is not going to hit something or whatever it is. You have to range the animal. You have to grab your bow, put your release on, draw back,
Yeah.
anchor, all those things were like, grab your gun, make sure that there's a hole that the bullet can fit through, click the safety off and pull the trigger.
Cut it loose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, especially whitetail. Like, whitetail out of a blind. Like, in Texas. It's like,
Well, like we were doing, we had plans to do a CVA series, and we were going to have a lot of creative control over it. And I begged Caleb, whatever you pitch them, can we please hunt from brush lines on the ground
yeah.
or ladder stands.
Yeah.
Because box blinds just look like it takes an aspect of the hunt away, like being in that environment.
Yeah.
And two, getting your cutaways, or not your cutaways, getting your scenics
Yeah.
and just like regular filler footage just doesn't look as good.
Yeah, and I think still like as popular as blinds are, like I don't think they're still not the reality for, a lot of people.
Right.
And I think, they're the audience that they're trying to go after with that brand, I still think is
that's like
tasty and
the Range King that David and Mark were telling us about, where it's got a AC heater wall unit, it's got a kitchen, a bathroom, TV,
it's like $18,000.
Yeah, it's like 1,000 square feet or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah. Did you go on and look at the options? You can like all of them. It's crazy. It's like nicer than my house. I got a decent house. It's like we're gonna watch TV in a blind.
Well, it's like all these duck guys. You see all these reels, and they pull their boat in up underneath the duck blind, and they're cooking bacon.
Yeah, and Cindy comes out and cooks.
Yeah, I'm over here eating a granola bar and a half a bologna sandwich with mayonnaise on it. I don't even like mayonnaise because that's what I got on this elk hunt.
Yeah. Sometimes the food's a little suspect.
Right, but it is nice though having that extra person on an elk hunt or something. You got to pack something out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like that.
Definitely.
That hunt we did with Brian and Chris, we had to pack that elk out 6 miles, and having each of us be able to take a quarter and then someone else take the head was like, it was cush having that fourth person.
Yeah, definitely having more people on an elk pack out, or any pack out for that matter, is definitely handy. Like the one we did with Ryer and Chris, that wasn't too bad. That mule deer was big, but it was like
People sleep on how big mule deer are.
Dude, this thing was big. I mean, we probably had 50 pounds apiece, maybe something like that. We have to go crazy far, like under 2 miles.
Right.
Still having 3 people there was way nice.
Well, then, and you think about that, even splitting up the weight as far as my camera gear, like on that hunt, I had my FX6 with my 24-105, and then my mirrorless in my bag with no lens on it.
Yeah.
And then Ryer had his FX6 with a 2-600 on it.
Yeah.
And then his mirrorless with 16-30.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I have 24-105 on my camera. Ryer shoots Canon, so he had his Canon DSLR and his Canon 16-35.
Yeah.
So we had 16 to 24-105 or 16 to 105 covered. Plus, with Ryer shooting the 1-400, that fits on my Sony mirrorless. So if we need to do anything photo-wise 1-400, I have that.
Yeah.
So then you basically, instead of me filming an elk hunt by myself, like when I'm doing a bow hunt, I have my FX6 with a 24-240, and then I probably have either my mirrorless with my 16-35 or my mirrorless with my 24-105. So it cuts out
right
a lens you have to carry.
Yeah.
So
and then maybe you have an action cam or something like that.
like an
Osmo or GoPro or whatever, has a third angle, but
right.
Usually with the
2 cameras, you don't really need it.
No, not usually. The mirrorless, like in the tree, looks so much better.
Right.
It's kind of, like Heartland Bowhunter's been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, well, that's where I got the idea from. But the difference between them and us is both of their cameras are mirrorless.
Yeah, true.
Well,
Well, they were shooting on. Were they shooting on red at one point?
All their like commercial stuff is on red.
Is all on red.
And they were shooting FS7s for a while.
Yeah.
They were doing FS7 5D Mark IV, and now they're doing R5 or R3. But there was like, if you go back and look at some old Heartland Bowhunter, they used to run one camera arm with like a metal plate. Well, it's a camera arm and a head. And on that head, that video head, they attached the base plate to like a 1 foot long by 6 or 8 inch wide piece of metal that they then had 2 DSLRs on.
Really?
They'd have a DSLR with the lav mic on like a 16-35 or 24-105. And then next to that, they'd have a DSLR with a 70-200. So then like they're filming the animal come in, probably in high speed, whatever, animal gets shot, it falls. They literally just turn that camera to the dude that's talking and hit record on the other camera and everything's pointed right at dude.
Really?
Yeah. Before
Huh.
now they run 2 camera arms. They run those 4th arrow camera arms, which they can get away with because they're running the mirrorlesses and the small Rode video mic goes.
Yeah.
And like their biggest lens is 70-200 or 1-400.
Yeah.
So they're running that on a 4th arrow, the big beefy 4th arrow, and then they run.
That's for my FX6.
And then they run. I ran my FS5 on that one, Caleb.
Yeah.
And then on the smallest 4th arrow arm that 4th arrow makes is what they run like their 16-35 with the audio.
Mm-hmm.
So they put up 2 camera arms. I just didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I created that little thing.
yeah, I use the lone wolf custom gear arm for my second angle.
Yeah.
And that's what when we were at Lead Test one day, you and I took like the one arm off it and made it shorter, which it works pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's quick.
Yeah.
You know, that's all you need.
You tell someone, hey, I'm going to set up 2 cameras in the tree, and they're kind of like, they don't really like it.
Yeah.
But as soon as they realize it doesn't take any more time,
Yeah.
and as soon as that's the big gripe people have. People love seeing stuff in slow-mo, but when they're in front of a camera long enough, they realize as soon as you kill something in slow-mo, it's like I can't say how many times someone shot something, it's gone down, and I'm like, it goes down, I stop hitting record, I'm like, hold on, and I'm literally saying, hold on, wait, the entire time I'm trying to get my exposure. Then I get my focus, and I wait 2 or 3 seconds, and I'm like, okay, and then they have to talk.
Yeah.
Versus like them shooting something and just getting to be able to look at that camera go, or like if I'm filming an animal, like when Lee killed that 9-point and he grunted that deer in the entire time, like I got all of that live. I didn't have to go back and recreate it.
Right.
And it's just so nice.
Oh, yeah.
And it's basically, you have that same thing when you're double shooting out west with a rifle, except it's a person doing it and not you.
Right.
It's got movement. It's a bit more crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No doubt.
You got anything else?
I don't know. Is there anything else we need to cover?
I don't know. I feel like we either covered that very efficiently and it didn't take long, or we're forgetting a whole nother aspect of what we're supposed to talk about.
Well, I'm going. We probably forgot something.
I mean, we talked about the gear and like all that kind of stuff, and then the filming style, and then like storytelling with it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess overall, I guess my whole thing on like what I would rather do, I'd much rather film archery hunts. You know, like,
Yeah,
it's just, I don't know. For me, like you said,
I still like to hunt.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I mean, was it nice going on these trips this year and killing on the first couple days and get to come home early, and then I got some time for myself to hunt?
Yeah.
Yeah. But do I want to hunt the lake on public land where I hunt and not see anything, or would I rather just stay there and see giant whitetails and elk all the time? You know what I mean? So it's like,
I just like the archery because to me, you can just tell so many more stories with it.
yeah,
There's so much more stuff with it, and it's just
Yeah.
not like it's nothing against gun hunting. It's just, obviously we do content for gun companies.
Yeah.
But like, a lot of times in most circumstances, it's a done deal.
yeah, storytelling with a bow is a lot easier unless you are doing one of those once in a lifetimes where you are looking for a specific animal,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
I'm doing my first rifle hunt since I'm 27. I was a freshman in college. So the fall of 2014, I'm doing my first rifle hunt 2025.
Where you going?
Since then, I'm doing a mule deer hunt with my dad.
Nice.
But my dad and I haven't hunted together in probably 4 or 5 years. He wants to kill a mule deer. I want to kill a mule deer. I'd rather just pay for a mule deer once in
Where are you guys going?
Nebraska. It's like, and he won't hunt with a bow, and I won't let him hunt with me with a crossbow. So it's like, would I rather? I would just like to kill a mule deer and just be done with it.
Yeah.
I just want to say I've killed a mule deer. I don't care
Yeah.
if it's with a rifle or bow. So I'd rather pay for it to be with a rifle and get it and have a better chance of it getting done with, because I'm not just writing a check for an animal,
Right.
but have a better chance of it being done with versus, pay for 5 mule deer hunts to kill one.
Yeah.
So, because it's
True.
not like I'm trying to kill 100 mule deer. Like I like hunting whitetails and turkeys too much. Like, I don't really ever care if I kill an elk.
Yeah.
I say that all the time, and then we go out in September, and I'm like, man, I'd love to come out here and do one of these. But the problem is that you experienced for the first time this year, the cheapest elk hunt I've ever been on was like an $11,000 elk hunt.
Yeah. Like for a client.
Yeah, and it was trash.
Yeah.
it was the hunt sucked. So
Yeah.
then you go like the place in Utah we usually go, the place in Colorado we've been,
Yeah.
where we go with like Chris is public land,
Yeah.
but Chris works for an outfitter and he's a guide, so it costs more money than just applying in New Mexico and going.
Yeah.
So like, I mean,
That's the tough part. Like where I've public land hunted several different places with my bow for elk, like spot in Idaho, it's killer. Like we've had years where it was like 5 out of 5 for opportunities and we killed 2.
right.
You know, and it was like that like year after year. Now it's gotten harder to get tags, and you know, I've told a couple of people about it and it kind of not got ruined, but like they got a tag and I didn't.
Right.
You know,
Right.
kind of stuff.
Like-
but it's always good, but it's like it's hard to find that spot.
Right.
Like I've also been to Colorado and you show up and like you hike 10 miles a day and
There's
you see
14 people from a floor.
yeah, that and you see one elk,
Yeah.
you know, for in 8 days or whatever, and it's tough. But
Caleb, Ryer, and Jamie went to Idaho and called in 11 different sets of hunters
yeah,
in 4 days.
you know, hunting public land like that, it's always going to be that risk, you know?
And I like if I kill this mule deer and I'm like, man, that was awesome,
Yeah.
I might spend the rest of my life trying to kill one with a bow, because like it's a lot harder than what people think.
Oh, it's way hard.
And like if I applied for an elk tag, it'd probably be a rifle tag to kill an elk, to say I've killed an elk, and then after that I'll try to kill one with a bow. Like I'm not this guy that I need to go kill an elk every year, because I would rather hunt whitetails than mule deer and elk.
Yeah,
Without a doubt.
I do love whitetails. Which they're probably my favorite, I think for sure, but I do love elk, and like I've been over the counter public like 8 or 9 times.
Right.
And all with a bow, and I've killed half an elk.
Yeah.
That's another story. That's between a buddy and I. It's a long story. He knows what happened. He denies it, but half an elk.
You'll be at a funeral and you lean over the casket.
Yeah, he owes me, and I'm always the one setting him up with those.
Hey, man, all I'm asking is that when you go and you go hard, all I'm asking is you leave that elk to me.
Yeah, right.
All right, guys. Well, if you got any questions, hit us up on our personal Instagram or the Redneck Tech Instagram. You can send us an email at rednecktechpodcast@gmail.com. If you have any podcast ideas, topics you'd like for us to cover, let us know. And we will see you in the next podcast. And hopefully I hit the right button to close out this.
Hopefully.